Hi, Abira.
Hi. So, hey everyone,
Uh,
a warm welcome to day 3 of Epsilon. I'm Abira, the MTT-S head here at IEEE SIS GST, and today is going to be epic. We'll be diving into the panel discussion on autonomous vehicles, Lidar versus camera based system.
Hello, everyone. I'm Aditya, your co-host and the technical head at IEEE SISGST. I hope you're all pumped because today we're really going to challenge some long-haired opinions. If you've ever talked about whether LiDAR or cameras are the future for autonomous cars, well, buckle up.
For sure, we've got an amazing session ahead where we'll explore the strengths, weaknesses, and the future of autonomous vehicles. Spoiler alert, we probably won't get a clear winner today. These techs are way too cool for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't place any bets just yet. But by the end of this, you'll have enough knowledge to ace your next tech discussion. So let's dive right in.
Before we get rolling, let's introduce our moderator for the day, Mr. Jinesh Vinay Chandran. Jinesh is a technical trainer at Device Electronics and an assistant professor in automobile engineering. He's a pro when it comes to electric vehicles and high voltage safety. And today, he's here to help us navigate this heated LiDAR versus camera discussion.
Absolutely. Jinesh is the perfect guy to steer this discussion. And if it wasn't enough, we've got a stellar panel lined up. Let's meet them.
First on our panel, we've got Dr. Saurabh Kumar, a senior lead engineer at Qualcomm. He's done some insane work in sensor fusion for autonomous vehicles. You guys might recognize him from day one of Epsilon. And if you've missed day one, no worries, you can watch it later on YouTube.
Next up, we have Mr. Shelvin Pauly, who's an expert in AI, robotics, and sensor fusion. He's built some perception models for autonomous robots. So, we're in some for deep insights on how these systems deal with real world challenges.
Then we have Michael Williams, who has more than 6 years of experience working directly on autonomous vehicle tech. Mike's been in the trenches with LiDAR and cameras, so I'm sure we're going to hear some real world stories from him.
And let's not forget Mr. Mohit Agarwala, a researcher at Krutrium AI. Is all about vision and robotics for autonomous systems. So he'll be giving us inside scoop on how these AI algorithms drive these sensors.
Last but not the least, we have Mr. Shrikant Vidapanakal, Director of Artificial Intelligence at Ola Electric Mobility. With 24 years of experience and over 12 patents filed, Shrikant is going to be bringing some serious firepower to this conversation.
All right, that's enough from us. Let's hand it over to our amazing moderator, Mr. Jinesh Vinay Chandran. Over to you.
Thank you, Aditya and Abira. It's been a fantastic experience, and as I already told you, it's a fantastic panel for in front of me. Very well-known peoples and very critical thinking peoples you assembled. So I believe this is going to be a very good discussion, and it's going to be a really good discussion. This is like one of the kind of discussion that the future generation is going to remember about. And yeah, uh, so Saurabh, Shelvin, Mike, Mohit, and Srikanth, thank you for coming again. And instead of I just give you a warm welcome. It's like a nice little hug. so, uh, so it's my duty to ask you questions about the present day scenarios, and it's like the what you say. It's like it's not. It will not be like a discussion in a news channel, but it will be a discussion, a really heated discussion. Some of you may be an enthusiastic of vision-based system. Some of you may be a well-known lidar specialist. So it's going to be kind of a discussion between what's a vision-based system and what's going to be the future of lidar in the automotive industry. But one thing I can clearly understand is all of we are nothing short of automotive enthusiast and tech enthusiast. So let's begin, shall we?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll ask the first question to Mike because he's really far from us. Uh, so Mike, I know you worked a really long time on autonomous vehicles, and you've been worked with vision-based system, lidar-based system. So there is always a small amount of curiosity in people's that how good is both vision-based system and lidar-based systems in terms of safety aspect. And most of the time, people used to ask, okay, are they reliable? When someone say, okay, these are light based system, so if there is no light, or what do you say, like a foggy condition or a smoky condition, are
Hmm.
they real really reliable to trust your life with?
So I think that is one of the big differences between a LiDAR system and a camera-based system is that, well, camera, you obviously need some other kind of light source in order to receive any kind of image or returns or any useful data, whereas LiDAR, because it uses a laser itself, it provides its own source of light. So like in certain conditions where it may be too dark or a camera might not provide, or a generalized camera might not be able to provide everything you need to drive, a LiDAR can, but a LiDAR will still work at night. LiDAR will still work at pitch black. However, in adverse conditions such as rain or fog or snow or other kinds of particulates in the air, LiDAR does have it is possible, it is very likely for the returns to come back very in a very scattered way, in a very sort of useless way. You might find uh, the LiDAR might detect smoke or you know another kind of particulate matter in the air as a solid object. I guess I'm going to go into my first war story already, but this not happened to me, but to a coworker of mine. So in the city where I near where I work, um, they often have steam pipes that are in the middle of the roadway coming up from out of the sewer when the sewer pressure is high to let some of the steam out and lift it over the roadway so people can drive through. However, we encountered a autonomous test vehicle that in this situation the steam was sort of flowing back onto the roadway in front of the steam pipe, and the lidar based autonomous test vehicle saw the steam as a solid object and just went straight into that solid steam pipe. It was very embarrassing for those involved, as that was right in the middle of a busy intersection. So yeah, a lidar is not perfect in adverse conditions like that. However, there is work being done to create algorithms to throw out the garbage data coming back from like dust clouds or steam clouds or snow in the air. In fact, several years ago, I remember reading that the U.S. Army was investigating using LiDAR on their helicopters, and these lidar will be looking down as the helicopter's trying to land in the desert, and they've come up with an algorithm to eliminate the noise, the sensor noise from the dust coming up, in order for uh, these helicopters to use the lidar to land safely in the middle of a dusty desert. I think that's the kind of progress we can expect to see in the future. Like, you know, the lidar algorithms are only going to get better, and the systems are only going to become more useful as time goes on.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, Mike. So Srikant, are you ready?
Yes.
So okay, I would like to ask you, like, see, even though lidar is considered to be a very critical system in the self-driving vehicles, we know Tesla and Elon Musk being one of the biggest critic of lidar. He actually compared lidar with appendix. Okay, he said, okay, one appendix bad, and now you have too many appendices.
That's true.
And he even actually said that, okay, even if LiDAR comes free, Tesla is not going to put it. But even though Tesla in Australia actually purchased a huge amount of LiDAR from Velodyne, I think Velodyne or something, someone like. But
Yes.
just thinking about like what are the real challenges here in LiDAR? Because if you consider vision-based systems, they are pretty much available right now with level 2 ADAS. And when we think about the full self-driving beta program of Tesla, they just eliminated the radar totally out of the network, and still it works. So, is it really necessary for a self-driving car to have a LiDAR? Or exactly what is the future of LiDAR with respect to the challenges we are facing today?
Yeah, that great question, Janesh. Uh, so I think you rightly said, like, Elon Musk had this opinion that, just all you need is just a camera, because we humans can actually see through just our eyes, like, which act like a stereo pair of cameras, right? And with that's all enough for us to figure out completely everything that we need to make a better decisions of driving. Can we replicate that on a autonomous vehicle, right? That's the question. And and the question that comes to me is LiDAR necessary for us to be fully self-driving, right? If you ask me, as my personal opinion, as of today, if you really want to be fully self-driving, I think camera-based systems is not going to be enough, uh, just given the limitations that we just discussed about camera-based systems purely. If you're just going to be only relying on cameras, then you are going to be facing issues. Uh, it's with just you need like massive amount of scale of data to be able to achieve the kind of reliability that is needed for you to be fully self-driving. And that's one reason why, like, there are no fully self-driving systems that exist today with just only cameras. And what Tesla really has right now is not fully self-driving, which are there are fully self-driving, but it's not fully scalable. If we had fully scalable self-driving systems that are purely vision-based, I think the first place to test them out would be in India, like, where the situation is crazy, and the driving behavior is really crazy, right? And so my answer to this is that if you want to be fully self-driving and you want to claim it is level 5 system, just having cameras alone is not enough. And in fact, you may need a combination of cameras plus radars and some lidars in that sense, and really a good amount of sensor fusion required to extract the juice out of all of these sensors, I would say. That being said, like, if you're I think what Tesla is betting on is that, um, as the capabilities of AI really reaches human level, and that's when I think definitely camera-based systems alone might be sufficient. And that is like, I don't have a crystal ball to say when that is going to be, but that is what, like, I think Tesla is betting on. So I think if I just have to summarize on basically what Andrej Karpathy recently said, that in this debate of Tesla versus Waymo, like, he sees that Tesla has a software problem, whereas Waymo has a hardware problem, because Waymo has insane amount of hardware, and there's a huge amount of cost for it to be economically viable. That's the problem that Waymo has to solve for. Like, how does it really optimize its hardware stack such that it can be economically viable with the array of sensors that it has. Whereas on the other side, Tesla, with this approach of massive amount of scalability through its fleet of vehicles and collect huge amount of data, and its hope is that eventually it will be able to build like fully self-driving systems which are reliable, which can work purely with cameras. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Srikant. Saurabh, I believe you are prepared for the questions
Yeah,
coming. So, sir, see, when everybody thinks of autonomy, and there are up to level 5 as per SAE. So, majority of the self-driving vehicles, whether it is from Waymo or Cruise or Zoom or Zoox, actually, sorry. So, everybody had a bunch of lidars. Okay, a bunch of lidars. Maybe it is mechanically rotating or it's a solid state, whatever it is. There is a bunch of lidars protruding out of the body shape. It's for an automobile enthusiast and design enthusiast like me. It's like it's like a nose out. It's like your nose coming out of your face, and there are multiple noses around your face. So ultimately, it looks hideous to see a lot of lidars revolving around the vehicle. And I believe the two vehicles I can put is the Sooks and the Cruise Origin, which is not a car, it's a shuttle. But other than that, even Waymo and Argo, everything is like a bunch of retrofit vehicles. On the contrary, if you consider a Tesla, it's very clean, neat, simply integrated. So when we are going to purchase a car, again, purchase a car, have a different opinion with different peoples. But a LiDAR is very difficult to get into the basic design, and it kind of protrude out ultimately. So when it comes to the LiDAR usage, it becomes necessary for you to put it outside, and then it becomes a little bit ugly. And on top of that, you have to pay a huge money. And
Yeah,
as Mike said, it's it's not completely reliable in a foggy condition and sticky condition. And the last time I checked, the Chinese company, which is Japan or Xpeng, depend upon the
yeah,
area, they just gone from a lidar based system to a vision based system.
yeah.
So my question is it really necessary for a car that going into a level 3 or level 4 autonomy? Presently we are in level 2, level 3 or level 4, to have a lidar to operate on the roads.
Yeah, so actually, like, so you this thank you for this question. Actually, this is just extension of the last one, which Srikanth answered. So, like this, yeah, lidar, so we add the like multiple sensors for the few, like for the redundancy or making certainty. So lidar has their own advantage of the giving good depth, but so like, it is important, but the camera, like, yeah, and the vision has this own, as Mike told that. So there are own challenges of like, so it's a passive sensor. So active sensors have the advantage of they can probe it, like lidar or radar. So lidar or radar, and the difference between lidar and radar is the resolution or the accuracy. So yeah, this lidar will be a part of it. Yeah, but the problem is how many lidars, like, and so will it be omnidirectional? Then one can be a sufficient. Is one is sufficient, or the if it's a directional lidars, and how many directional lidars? So yeah, it's a like a like it's a problem, is as Kapathi tells, that it's a problem of optimizing the hardware. Like, my gut feeling says, as of now, that it will be a combination of both, because like in the like when we test the in when we are testing one vehicle or two, in the testing environment, I have worked on ST Micro. Like, I was associated with ST Micro Electronics for some time in Singapore, and we were testing uh, shuttles in, maybe like in Singapore. And the experience is, it is very easy to test in the like in a controlled environment, but when we are testing in the real environment, you need more than the certainty, you need redundancy, so that if anything fails, you can fall back. And that is the reason also, maybe if you will give another engineer like the same chance as Tesla is doing, they are using eight cameras, array of eight cameras. Maybe another engineer will be saying that, okay, yeah, six cameras are enough. But it is enough redundant to, if one or two are broken, and can they construct the other part? And because Gen AI is also coming, like, because I was reading a paper recently that if like they can use the only three cameras, and they can like get the surround view, and even if one is broken, using the Gen AI they can get the third cameras uh, image. So it's all depend, it's all like with the current capabilities, and the amount of scrutiny the autonomous vehicle industry goes on, because even for is even like there are plenty of accidents every day around the world. But if autonomous car makes a small accident, that's in the news, and and these are the big techs, and big techs are easy to also be liable. So there can be and they get the bad press. So because of that, they also need redundancy. So I will with the current capabilities of the tech, I will go with the and go with the mix of every sensor. Camera, actually, even if you will not use in Fusion, you will still have the camera for multiple things in the car. Even in the L1 or L2 system, ADAS system, you have the camera for back parking and a surround view. So those, it is also a cheaper system. So that's why you also use that, because when you already have something, you use it for the betterment. I can give you example. I was recently filing a patent on solving something which was can be like only can be done by lidar, and the patent team was asking me why you can always take the help of camera, and they are like, why do you assume that the system only has lidar? Because there will be always camera, because this is not usable like useful in the real system, because there will be always some camera system available in the car. Yeah. So with the current capabilities, yeah, you need a mix of both to have the redundancy, and having very low rate like mm, low rate of the accidents, and avoid the press. That's also important as an executor. You maybe Srikant is maybe dealing with these things. It must be very hard to deal with the bad press.
Yeah, I mean, so just to add to this Saurabh's point, I think, like he said, so if you just have a lidar alone, it's not going to be sufficient, because lidar has limitations in terms of reading the colors, right? Like, and very high resolution lidars would be required, which will be more expensive. So I mean, you can't get away without having a camera-based systems, and you, if you want to have very high degree of reliability, you would want that you want today, like, not in future. Then you really need a good combination of sensors to have a high degree of reliability.
So that makes me a doubt. I believe Mohit can clear that. So presently, if you take the sensor only, camera is one of the cheapest sensor you can buy. So maybe you put 13 cameras or 15 cameras, it's still going to be cost less than a lidar. And I still remember that before, like 7 8 years before, when Google was testing its pilot project on I believe which is on the Toyota Prius, the single rotating lidar on top, just like the Jeremy Clarkson says, something is rotating on the car. uh, that thing, I think the Google's project head Larry, I believe, he quoted that that sensor alone cost more than the car.
Yeah.
So presently, as Saurabh actually said, there is AI coming into the picture, and vision-based algorithms are getting better and better every day. So how good these camera-based, vision-based algorithms are? working, because I know there is a huge amount of data to be processed behind the scene, and this sensory part is just one area people look at and say, okay, this is less costly. But I believe that the hardware behind the camera is as costly as a lidar to work and really work on a huge amount of metadata and tera kind of data, you can say. So in that sense, how a lidar system kind of weigh against a camera system, and if we are actually implementing two of them together, is it going to be better? Yes, of course it is going to be better, because everybody say it is going to be better with the redundancy. But how it is going to affect the purse of the manufacturer?
Okay. So to answer that, I think we have used a lot of lidars in our in Ola or Fliprim. So I think it costed around like more than a car. Obviously, like on a, if I give you a number, it is like 40 to 50 lakhs. We can't might give you the correct number, but yeah. So that is way too costly given the entire sensor. You can build 4 or 5 cars with all the sensors, with cameras and all, with the price of single lidar. So now coming to that, why like lidar is important, and like why only camera systems won't work given the present tech that we have. So basically, the question is why different sensors are desirable right now. So if we have 15 cameras and we have 6 cameras plus a lidar, why do we go towards 6 cameras and a lidar compared to 15 cameras? So that will be so all the cameras will have a same measurement principle, right? To measure anything. And now if there is a fall against one perturbation, then the complete sensor suite that you have will fail. There will be no fallback option. So now, so this is the very a simple reason to understand why different sensors are used, why we use sensor fusion techniques and all these things. Now, the second thing is that given any autonomous system with neural networks and deep learning, there are two things that are important here. One is the data, and one is the your ability to understand the data. Now, if you have a data which is very rich in the features, for example, LiDAR data, which is a very structured 3D spatial information that you get from LiDAR compared to camera. Now, if you have very good data that we have, we don't need a very good system. We can go away with very little understanding. We don't need algorithms that can extract a lot of features and then understand it. But that is today right now. But I believe that as Tesla's vision, we can use only cameras, because cameras data has all the features that we need, because also it's often compared with human perception. So if human can work with only two eyes, which is mimics a stereo vision, and our brain to process it, why can't a system can do it? So I believe that only camera systems can work, but for that has to be we have to have a system that can understand the data much better, and that will happen over time. Like if we have algorithms, nowadays, recently, if you see the advancement in the vision, it's as Teslas have techniques like occupancy networks, which allows camera vision to determine whether a space is occupied simply by analyzing pixels on the pixel level. So end-to-end learning enhances the capability, enabling vision-only systems to comprehend roads, lens, traffic lights, stop signs, everything that can be done using camera. And now the question is now the second thing is that so camera is a passive sensor, so it relies on the external lighting conditions to interpret. Now combining we need some active sensor as well, for example lidar or radar. But I think I will go instead of lidar I will go with radar, because radar has it can work as in low lighting conditions, as well as it can also work in fog and rainy conditions, which both cameras and lidars will fail. So it actually complements the capabilities of it actually complements the failing of camera one sensor compared to the other. And lidar brings a lot of redundancy with camera. Like with lidars and cameras, for independent camera and independent lidar, we can have a lot of things that can be done with the same accuracy and same amount of reliability. But radars bring in more complementary features than LiDAR. So that is my belief, and I think we have tested a lot of things using camera and radar systems, and we have used LiDARs, but that is only for ground truth, so that we can train our algorithm, which is only camera or vision based. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mohit. So, Shelvin, I was actually thinking that okay, when we kind of thinking about autonomy, like from level 3 onwards, it is a machine-centric autonomy. So from level 3 onwards, the machine has to assume the control of the vehicle to a certain extent at least. And in level 4 and level 5, the machine has to take over the control. And ultimately, we are planning to have a level 5, not today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
But in that scenario, uh, how the LiDAR technology is evolving, because the regulatory framework for a vision based system, since it is been there for years in ADAS, the vision based system is much more mature than LiDAR. So, what about the technology that are coming right now into the LiDAR area
Yeah.
to move it towards the level 5?
Yep. So, Jinesh, I'm a very big proponent of visual perception than lidar perception. That's that being said, if we want a product right now, it cannot be done without lidar, and it is a fact. As many of the other panelists already mentioned, uh, as humans, we do visual perception on a daily basis. So it is obvious that if we want to solve the problem at a wholesome level, we have to solve it with cameras. But when you look at it from a product perspective, we want it to be scalable, we want it to be cheap, we want it that like it permeates every industry, right? So let's look at autonomous mining. They have solved this problem years back. Caterpillar is just pioneering. They have this thing called big yellow trucks. It's like massive structures going around without any drivers. There's no one monitoring it, and it works 24/7 regardless of what the weather is. Whatever is happening, the trucks go on. But if I were to walk outside my house, I wouldn't see a similar technology at work. Why is that? Because it's not cheap, first thing. And if, let's say, a company like Tesla has to make such a system, it has to be not complex, it has to be simple, right? If you have to build it at that scale. So if someone has to build it right now, it has to be in such an industry where the entire cost is not taken up by the customer. The company is also bearing some sort of cost. That's why we see autonomous shuttles or autonomous taxis and those. And I mean, even though they don't claim it, I don't believe that they are making a lot of profits right now. But there are a lot of retrofit options like Oxa or Beep is working on. There are smaller companies who are working on those issues. So not really. So in terms of how lidar is evolving over the days, it has to be driven by the research community rather than the products, because in general, the idea is the industry is at least 5 years behind what the research is doing. So initially, LiDAR was like a big problem just developing LiDARs. Right now, the algorithms are a problem. We have the hardware, we are still developing on the algorithms. When it comes to cameras, algorithms are well developed, we have good sensors, but the onboard compute is a problem. So there was one problem that I was once working on, and it is still a problem. I haven't solved it. I hope one of you solve it. Something called as object permanence. So that is like something gets occluded and then it goes out of memory and randomly it comes back and the system has no idea what to do about it, right? But on a daily basis, we humans are able to pick that up, even if it is in our peripheral vision, right? Even though there are like less number of cones in our peripheral vision, we are easily able to pick it up. So it's like how many things do we remember from a autonomous vehicles perspective, right? And sort of reduce that into the minimalist dimension, keep it for a certain amount of time, track it even behind in a memory and then sort of estimate where it could be, right? So there are so many problems we have to solve it. So in my opinion, within the next 10 to 15 years, we have to work directly on the hardware. Software can be done, on the way, but hardware is the biggest problem at this point. And that's a very opinionated view of things.
Yeah. It's fantastic to hear from all you. It's Q&A time. Uh, so
Yeah,
those who are
actually,
hearing
I
our
like, yeah, I was just thinking, like, obviously, hardware is a thing, uh, we can, we will be working on, but software will go hand in hand, because lidar technology is quite evolved now, but the like lidar processing tech is still, or lidar data processing is still, like, there is a lot of room for improvement, like bad weather or dynamic objects, and also the, like, in mechanical lidars, the is de-skewing, those problems are, can be solved by software itself, so, in a better way. So I think it will be going hand in hand with both.
Yep. Uh, So most of these companies that are relying on lidars, they also have a reliance on HD maps, right?
Yeah.
Which
Yes.
draws the cost so high because if, let's say, I mean, I'm not planning to, but if I decide to build a company, AV company, I probably might be able to start off on someone's work, develop something, but by the time I acquire those HD maps, I don't think my company will sustain that period, right? And that's why Waymo or any of those big techs, they are sort of releasing it in small areas, expanding it like a mile a day or something as they map things. So that are some of the other issues when it comes to lidar, right? But when it comes to camera, look at Tesla. They are just deploying it everywhere, even though it's just L2 compared to the other companies. But the general notion is around the branding, right? Tesla is like the Apple of vehicles. So even though there are issues, if you sit in a Tesla today, you might find a lot of issues using their tech, but they're branding it so well that people are, just using it regardless of what the issue is.
you can say fall for
Yeah,
it.
so I think here Mohit's point is, like, valid. You have to give a, like, all round experience for the customer. Customer don't want too much tech. It wants
Mhm.
simplicity, and
Yep.
the Tesla provides that simplicity, even if it is not, like, level 2 or level 3. Initially, it was not even level 2 well, right? But it was providing simplicity and
Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. Uh,
the hope
so the
we will make it better.
Argo AI
Mhm.
was a brainchild of Volkswagen plus Ford, and
Yes. They
then unfortunately both of them just pulled out of it, saying that okay, this is too costly for both of us,
yes.
and that was kind of a worrisome. And then in USA, Mary Barra was betting too much on the cruise, and now they are abandoning hundreds of the Origin shuttles into the yards.
Yeah.
So what exactly is happening in terms of this autonomous vehicle? Like, are we really moving forward?
Um so I think the auto manufacturers are quick to cut expensive research programs when the economy goes down, and the economy, at least here in the United States, has been a little shaky as of late. So, and that's not terribly surprising. Some other companies might be a bit have more of a longer view of it, such as Toyota. I mean, Google with Waymo is all the way in. They're not an OEM; they're kind of their own thing instead. But I think what we're seeing here is a movement towards higher levels of autonomy in vehicles that are already being produced, like additive semi-autonomous or active safety systems being added to new vehicles. I mean, I think we don't talk enough about Volvo and their commercialization of lidar sensors in their production vehicles. I think that that's a very, like you mentioned earlier, Janesh, about how you don't care for the aesthetics of the autonomous test vehicles with the big with the big unicorn horns on top, the sensors sticking out all the sides. But I do think that there are being strides made in certain production vehicles. I previously worked at Toyota Research Institute, and we had the Platform 4 vehicle with a very slick sensor rack on our vehicles, utilizing uh, four solid-state lidars facing out each direction, as long as a number of cameras and other sensors up in that sensor rack. Um, but anyway, why things are moving. I think it's just it's exactly what everyone else is saying. It's just like, yeah, we're starting to hit the limits of like there are limitations to how commercialized we can make these products at this time, especially like with such limitations as hardware costs, the cost of mapping with HD maps, which basically everyone relies on. It's just we're trying to get over this hump of between really good research demos and actual commercialization. And I think because a lot of domestic auto manufacturers here in the United States aren't seeing that a path to commercial viability, that may be why they're starting to do a lot of cuts, a lot of rearrangements or reconfigurations of their autonomous vehicle programs, moving people around, a lot of acquisitions being seen, a lot of consolidation within the market as well. I think has a lot to do with it. It's hard to say. I've never been up in those rooms where they make these kinds of decisions, but I can only imagine from seeing seeing the issues that we have on the ground floor, how things are
So
going.
it's like you are sailing into a thunderstorm.
Yeah, and the captains of the ship aren't seeing a way through, so maybe they're turning around early.
Yeah, Shelvin, since you are a vision-based guy, I just want to ask, like, majority of the time, uh, we have a problem with this radar, lidar, and other stuff, which is related to the HD maps. So companies are trying to create a very high definition map, which is centimeter level precision, and then we see vision-based systems coming just like, yeah, it's not my problem, and then
Hmm.
just move on with it. So if we are moving to a fully vision based system, just like the Tesla and Japan, uh, an HD map become an optional item. Is that what we have to assume?
Yeah, so if we solve the problem of visual perception, then HD maps becomes optional. Currently, at least what Tesla claims is that they're not using any HD maps. I cannot speak for what Tesla is doing, but in that sense, if you think, right, there is again a bunch of considerations that follow. So if you look at warehouse automation, uh, again, those are also like there's like a centralized planner and multiple things that are solving the problem for them. So again, if we have like a controlled environment, I think we can totally rely on a camera. But again, when you commercialize things, it is not a controlled environment, right? So for example, like planning algorithms have been there since so long. One of the very common applications of it is at an ATC, which is an air traffic controller. But even though that is automated, we always have a human allotted to one specific flight. That is because we still do not trust the algorithms, even though they are doing their jobs perfectly. Everything, every part of the system is functioning really well from years, right? but how much do you trust that system? That it all boils down to that, right? So that's why we still have a human allotted to one specific flight path, or just monitoring the trajectories that are being outputted from that system. So even if, I'm not saying it will, but even if LiDAR gets obsolete or any other sort of sensor gets obsolete in the future, how much would a human trust that? Really, I'm very surprised that Waymo and all these companies are getting, their permits in all these big cities, because actually the government is accepting this technology, even though the aviation industry hasn't been able to implement them directly.
I mean, the regulations in aviation is like quite strict, right? And in that sense, it's compared to the automobile industry.
Mhm.
So Srikanth, I wonder, like, see, um, majority of the time we talk about the safety of the systems. Uh, we have, like, basically in my interaction with the companies which trying to implement ADAS, they are more worried about the functional safety, the ISO 26262, than the SOTIF, safety of intended functionality, and which I believe which is more important than anything else if you are moving towards the autonomy. And
Yep.
in that scenario, which one you think which is a risky area, a lidar or a vision based system?
I mean, I think that's a great question again. So the thing is, like, let's look at these regulations, right? And what do they demand, right? Like, for example, ISO 26262 functional safety requires that you have reliable detections of various kinds of objects, and the system requires these kind of proofs that you are able to detect every kind of objects in different scenarios, right? Like, uh, you're in intersections and highway to urban driving conditions, etc. So this in such scenarios, right, like that's where one of the limitations, especially if you are completely end-to-end systems, where you're actually bypassing the perception system, where it actually produces so perception system produces some kind of object detections and, like, the complete scene understanding. uh, and if you have completely like end-to-end systems which actually bypass these intermediate steps, right, then that's a big problem from a regulation standpoint, because you do not know, the system is not really interpretable in that sense, and that's where complete end-to-end systems require a different methodology, and which is also acceptable to regulatory authorities in that sense. So that's one area. There is more work needs to be done from a regulatory standpoint. For example, in India right now, we don't really have such a strong regulations for autonomous systems, and we sort of import from some of the standards that exist in Europe and US. That's one of the challenges for us also, like from that standpoint, if can we actually put completely end-to-end systems which actually produce from perception to pixels to trajectories, or pixels to some kind of a plan, right? Such systems will lack this kind of interpretability that would be required for regulations, and that's also one of the factors that decides how what kind of autonomy stack that we can build. Is it going to be completely end to end from pixels to plan, or a pixels to some kind of intermediate representations, or intermediate outputs in the form of directed objects, so on and so forth. So if you are especially using you're using lidar, so all of that information is like, pretty much available to you, like through uh, because it's pretty transparent.
Srikanth, just a follow up from there. So when it comes to autonomy, we generally just stop at planning, right? But what we're not realizing is that control is a problem as well, right? For
Yes.
robotics, we have vision, language, action model. But when it comes to autonomous vehicles, we are still thinking like how we plan a specific, like, trajectory from point A to point B. What are we perceiving on the way? and how are we using it to localize ourselves and things like that.
Right.
So how big is the control problem? I have not worked towards that side much, so just want to know your opinion.
Yeah, so I think one of the things is about the controls, right? Like, so it's very specific to kind of the dynamics of the vehicle, right? And if you're building, for example, you spoke about vision language action models, which are like end-to-end systems where you are directly input and outputting the throttle from going from pixels. So it wouldn't be really viable if you don't know the mechanics of the vehicle, the dynamics of the vehicle. And there
Mm-hmm.
are multiple models of the vehicles, right? Like there is a kinematic bicycle model, which helps you to simplify overall the controls of the vehicle, but it will not capture the full reality, and you will not be able to get the best out of the vehicle in terms of the controls. And that's where you need so you need like things like you need to have tire models to understand what's their coefficient of friction is, to
Mm-hmm.
take into account all the frictional forces that act on the vehicle. So the vehicle dynamics becomes very important for you to solve for in the process, and that's one reason why most of the models actually don't go from pixels to controls directly, and that's why you need at least you can learn to actually do from go from pixels to plan, and learn from the driving behavior data that you can collect through uh, the driver logs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that helps you like you already get kinematically feasible trajectories, but for it to be completely safe for the vehicle and get the best performance out of the vehicle, you really need to do low level control properly. Yeah, considering all the vehicle dynamics, yeah, that's pretty much important.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So yeah, like I have one question. Yeah, like yeah, anybody can answer. So how much is the localization important here? Like what should be the accuracy limit we should like aim for to have a good plan, the planning and control?
Um, yeah, like if if I can answer that, I think some of the we have seen the evolution of this autonomy stack going from what we call as AV 1.0 to what is now being called AV 2.0, right? AV 1.0 was like completely reliant on lidar and HD maps, etc. And that really required like centimeter level of accuracy of localization for your decision making systems. But now with the more end-to-end systems, right? You, s- uh, yeah, you still need like some meter level accuracy, I would say, for it to be reliable. May
Yeah,
not be.
because
Yeah.
yeah, because different teams or different design systems we design, sometimes we assume 10, like because tire width is less around 10 centimeters, so we assume that 10 centimeters is enough. And but when we talk about the SD map, we always talk about okay, less than a centimeter. And so that's why I like so I have this some point of view that is are the SD maps of centimeter accurate are really needed, or we can manage with lesser for at least a level 3 to level 4 driving.
Okay. So for some time I was out of this discussion due to the technical glitches and connection problems. So guys, we are expecting some questions from the people who are listening to our uh, talks, or we can say the tech show. So let's see what are the questions coming into the picture. Home, you can put the stuff in the stuff. So we conclude the discussion as of now. If there is any questions, it's the opportunity for the people who are listening to this uh, panel discussion. It's now your time to ask the questions.
Yeah, one of the question is too much parameter to consider, quite complex system to build. Yeah, that's the thing everybody is trying to solve, because the it's like from both the side, hardware as well as software side, both the side. There are so many parameters to consider, and also regulatory things, because the regulations are also not up to the board yet, and it's evolving system, and system is evolving, regulations are also evolving.
So, for the participants, let me ask you this: like, in India, are we really ready for this kind of a system? Like, Srikant, what do you think? Are we really ready for a lidar-based system? Because, like, okay, we have vision-based ADAS from almost all the manufacturers as of now. Everybody have a camera based system for, I think, level 1, level 2 systems. But are we really ready, or are we really in that stage to move on?
Uh, is the question is, can vision only systems step up and go to level 3? Is that the question right now?
Yeah. Is it for us? Is for India? It's a huge value-oriented market. People might say there will be vision, like it's a price-oriented market, but is it? I consider it as a value-oriented market. Like, you spend 1 rupee and you should get at least 1.5 rupee thing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, there is a question right now. So, what are the key considerations and best practices for generating accurate digital elevation models for lidar data, and how do these considerations impact quality? So, Mike, you want to do the answer?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get the question.
The question is like, uh, what are the considerations and best practices to generate an accurate model of lidar data?
Uh, like I guess like in the context of mapping, again, perhaps this might be a little outside of my wheelhouse, but sorry, I'm. You just get me. I'm sorry. I'm not.
Uh,
I think I'm not having a good connection here.
okay, I can answer that
Sri-
question.
Yeah, please,
So there
please.
are, yeah, so there are multiple models. Most of the people think about voxelization can help. Obviously, voxelization will also reduce the accuracy, because you will be you will be obviously, like, you will be having a like cube of some size. So inside the cube, everything is similar. So voxelization, and another models, like if you will see some of the models, they use all the point cloud, a whole of the point cloud. And third model is or feature based model, to create the map of the the creating the map of environment in lidar. So in all three models, I will say each have their own accuracy issues. But if you have to create a digital map and then centimeter accurate, then you need to go for the having having all point cloud, not voxelization. But if you wanna go for less 5 centimeter or like around 10 centimeter accurate map, yeah, voxelization will help. And also, obviously, whatever you will decide on the accuracy of the map, and then that will be directly like inversely proportional to the cost of the of your runtime. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Srikant, sorry, Mohit,
Yeah.
this question actually comes from Shreyas. Uh, uh, No, Shreyas, is lidar inherently more power hungry uh, due to its active sensing method? And for a battery operated vehicle or a battery electric vehicle, how an active sensor is compared to a passive sensor?
Yeah. So yeah, this is like when you have an active sensor, you'll need to have system which will generate light sources and all these things. So obviously the lidar inherently will take more power than any other passive sensor, for example, camera. So yeah, simple answer is yes, lidar will have more battery like energy needs than the passive sensor.
So how that is going to affect if I am in a standpoint of battery electric vehicle, because my range is now affected by my sensor.
Yeah, yeah. So in that case, like I think if the main source is powered by, suppose we have two systems, one is only camera based, one is with lidar. So we can have separate battery only for the lidar, powering lidar systems. But yeah, like the performance of the range of the car will like affect will get affected if you're using lidar as a sensor in our suit. Yeah, definitely it will be getting affected.
Yeah, but
Uh,
actually, I just want to add one point
Please,
here.
please.
Like, uh, so, uh, so especially the camera-based systems actually produce much more higher resolution and richer information, right? And it's the data generated by cameras is much more significant than the lidar. Now the question is if the comparison with camera, I think lidar you can actually it all depends on like what's the number of channels in the lidar you have. Like is it a 16 channel lidar or
Yeah,
a 32 channel or a 64? All of that actually proportionate to that. Like you have the number of points that gets generated per frame, right? And the frame rate also dictates how much data you generate, right? And so if you actually are battery constrained, you may want to make the design decision of like how much accuracy you need and how much range you need, and based on that you could design like a lower resolution, a lower number of channels, lidar for that specific purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, from an industry perspective, it also depends who can pull it off, right? So let's say Waymo decides that it's going on like it wants to implement 20 lidars, which means that they can get a range of 60 or 70 miles. They can pull it off easily, right? They can have like 2 3 rides and then go charge, come back. But you cannot do that with a consumer vehicle because they have to go like at least drive a single day with that car, right? So it also depends which market you're trying to penetrate. So
Yes.
that's why I again believe, right, we can only solve this with commercialization, let's say like shuttles and things like that, because they
So
have
in
the.
that sense, I think there is a question from Aman. So I believe Mike may be able to answer because America is a off-road country, and off-road vehicles now sells at a very high premium, and everybody wants to have an off-roader. So uh, tomorrow, if there is a self-driving comes in off-roading capacity, presently there are vehicles from US military that deploys lidar and camera. I think the robotic mules, there are a number of robotic mules.
Mhm.
How good they actually perform without a lidar and with a lidar. Of course, we know that if multiple sensors are there, better perception will be. But as
Mhm.
Aman is asking, in a very less structured environment, which system will be much more easier or much more perfect?
Mm, I think in a less structured environment, such as being off road, I would have to say I would think that camera would probably be a better system as there's a lot more focus on sort of like semantic segmentation, like identifying individual objects versus looking for consistent. I've seen the data. You typically it gets a lot easier to identify a tree through a camera feed than through a lidar feed. Um, so like if you're looking for very unstructured environments like that, I think camera's probably the way to go versus lidar. Lidar would, I think lidar might have some applications, but I think compared to camera, they'd be very limited. Someone else can feel free to jump in. I've not really investigated the problem too much.
Yeah. I can add something like
Yeah,
cameras
please.
can provide like more color and texture information compared to lidar, which can be helpful for recognizing certain types of terrain, like in an off-road scene. For example, like different kind of mud, water, vegetation, for making contextual decisions. For example, like if cameras can help distinguish between a grassy patch and a pile of leaves, which lidar will give you the same information. So, so that more scene and like more semantic and contextual understanding is with camera compared to lidar in this kind of off-road scenarios.
So
But
in that scenario, like Sudipto Ghosh is asking, like how much cost we are thinking of when we move from lidar to sorry camera to lidar. Presently, if from a level 2 system which doesn't have a lidar, uh, we try to input a lidar into the equation to go to level 3. How much of a cost addition we are expecting, at least in the Asia Pacific?
Uh, okay, I can try to answer that. A lidar costs are anywhere between at a very minimal, it's $500 and upwards of $1,000 depending on the kind of resolution that you want. So if you actually like compare that with the cameras, so cameras are costing anywhere between 20 as low as $20 to $100 in that range, right? So obviously, like with just purely camera-based systems, like you are looking at a cost of like say uh, anywhere close to so with if you just add the GPU costs and then uh, GPU system costs, and then we have let's say 6 to 8 cameras. It's all adds up to like 160. It's like roughly around uh, $2,000 would be the sensor costs, right? And adding additional lidars, like I think if you're actually considering passenger vehicle segment, then you may want to add like solid state lidars, which but which you will need like at least 2 or 3 of them to cover the field of view that you want to cover. So that would add to the cost of like additional anywhere to 2,000 to 3,000 US dollars additionally, just to support these lidars. So yeah, that's how I look at it. Like the base cost of just pure camera based system would be somewhere around 2,000 US dollars plus. So if you are looking at adding additional lidars and for passenger vehicles, then you are looking at least 2x the cost, because you just one single lidar would not be enough to cover, especially solid state lidars would not be enough to cover the what you would want ideally. Yeah. Few that you.
So we are expecting to
So
have a
yeah,
suite
I've
of
seen like
sensors, right? Suite of sensors and a very big software patch to work it on. Mm. And see, the question that's not really all of them asked is, so for all this camera and vision, we are talking about the sensor, the processor, but ultimately it comes to the processing unit, isn't it? The high performance computing platform and the communication channels. And when you are going towards a system that is pulling not MBs but GBs, an Ethernet becomes a necessary. And how how the manufacturers, especially legacy manufacturers, are willing to pull it off, because now you have to completely restructure your E&D architecture, and instead of microcontrollers you have to go to microprocessors. Classic autos are to adaptive autos are for all your structure. You have to go through Ethernet loops. So
yes.
a complete restructuring of the E&D architecture becomes just like the Thanos says, inevitable.
Absolutely.
So, how much these legacy manufacturers are willing to go for it?
Yeah, I think that I think the legacy manufacturers will have a trouble if they want to actually support higher levels of autonomy, right? And which means additions of all these cameras and other additional sensors, and especially their high bandwidth. So you can't really use CAN bus because the bandwidth is limited, right? And definitely that requires completely redesign of your vehicle architecture. And I think we have seen the general tendency of the industry is now going more towards consolidation of all the ECUs that you have on the system, and going more towards a centralized architecture which can actually support high bandwidth throughput that is required. Um, yeah so yeah, definitely, like it's inevitable that, like, that's I see that this is the large industry trend of going towards more centralized architecture. Yeah. So did that answer the question, Janesh?
Yeah, yeah, it's okay. It's good. So presently, we cannot expect too much of changes in the E&D architecture of legacy manufacturers
Yeah,
because of the
legacy
inventory they
manufacturers,
have.
yeah.
And I have seen that Tesla moved on from that,
Yes.
and that's been a big challenge. But I believe that the I think the Blue Cruise from Ford, isn't it, Mike? Which
Yeah.
is actually won the survey, customer survey for the best level, like hands-free driving in American streets. Now, how Ford is tackling, because for Ford, they are selling the electric vehicle for a loss, will be able to change the whole system in their IC engines and electric vehicles for the level 3 passage, or are they going to still pull the, like Jim Farley is going to pull the string again, so that yeah, we are good with this Blue Cruise, let's stick with that.
Um, Sort of like what the point I hit earlier is that Blue Cruise is very much an additive. It's not, it is hands-off driving, but you still are required to pay attention, and it is, I think, most importantly, limited to controlled access highways. Like we have freeways where there's no pedestrians, no stopping, no crosswalks or intersections, and Blue Cruise is very effective in that specific situation, which fortunately in the United States covers a large proportion of the miles driven, you know, daily total. Um, but yeah, like Blue Cruise, I think is an effective system because it is really largely built on what's come before. The expanding on adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, like these sort of piecemeal features of ADAS to approach full autonomy, as opposed to the more research-driven focus of such as a Waymo, where you build the fully autonomous system and then sort of work backwards from there and applying it to commercial systems. Um, but yeah, I don't think Blue Cruise is going to go away. I think definitely driver assistance, ADAS, is here to stay, and it's working out for Ford. And like that's
Yeah,
something I've noticed myself is like my personal vehicle is I drive a relatively new model Toyota vehicle with a lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control, emergency braking, our active braking, and it's largely like I don't have to provide any inputs when I'm on a closed access highway. I'm driving on the highway. It's pretty much there. Like Blue Cruise is the next step up from that system, but like what I got, it was is a standard feature on my Toyota. Like that's just part of the standard Toyota's feature set. Like they're starting to build them in. They're not options on top of nothing. It's like, oh, these are starting to have to be integrated into the central CAN bus and into the central like sort of like design specs for the whole vehicle are these considerations for ADAS. Now, will we get there for autonomous vehicles, like fully autonomous vehicles? I think we're still quite a few years out from that, but I definitely think it is possible, but it will be contingent on getting costs down, and it's both, sort of physical hardware costs as well as uh, the requirements on that network system to become more economical, more practical. But I think the manufacturers are learning to do more with less uh, as far as autonomy goes. So it'll happen eventually.
Yeah. So it's been 1 hour, 17 minutes, and 48 seconds and counting. We've been in this panel discussion. So it was really informative and fun uh, discussing with all you guys, and the questions and the participants were evenly impressive. So I have to thank you all from my heart. You all done a great thing for the coming upcoming generations to get ready for the future, the generation alpha to get ready for the future. So uh, I have to announce that this panel discussion cannot be go for the eternity. It has to come to an end, and this is the time. Even though I like to continue chatting with you guys, but yes, we have to finish this off for good. So yeah, thank you, all of you. I don't want to name everyone again. Like I thank you all of you from my side. Thank you for answering all the questions. And yeah, Aditya and Abira, you're up.
Yes, sir.
So,
It was a great discussion. If there's one thing we've learned today, it's that there's no simple answer to this. Both LiDAR and camera have their place in autonomous vehicle. But the real winner here is that we all get a front row seat to the future of tech.
yes, couldn't agree more, Abira. A huge shout out to our panelists for dropping some serious knowledge today. I think we all walk away with some better understanding. And maybe, just maybe, we're all leaning towards one side just a little bit.
Now, I would like to express our sincere appreciation to Jinesh Vinay Chandran for his valuable insights on LiDAR, cameras, and autonomous driving. Additionally, we extend our gratitude to him for skillfully moderating today's panel discussion.
Now, Saurabh Kumar, thank you so much for your deep dive into sensor fusion and mapping technologies of LiDAR sensors.
I would like to present the token of gratitude to Mr. Shelvin Pauly. He truly gave us some amazing insights on what exactly goes on in the world of autonomous vehicles.
Yes, then I would like to thank Michael Williams for sharing his real world stories on LiDAR based systems. Thank you so much.
We would like to present the token of gratitude to Mr. Mohit Agarwala for his amazing insights on the applications of LiDAR and precisely covered its pros and cons.
Lastly, token of gratitude for Mr. Shrikant Vidapanakal. You really set the stage for panel discussion with incredibly thought-provoking perspectives on LiDAR camera systems. Thank you so much.
We're glad to have you all and thank you once again for this knowledgeable session. Before we conclude, participants, remember that there's a task for you that needs to be submitted by the end of the day. The details are mentioned in the form you've received.
Stay tuned for the closing ceremony for Epsilon 2024 at 6 p.m. With that, we conclude today's panel discussion and don't forget to fill out the feedback form as well. Thank you for joining us, and IEEE will see you all soon. Thank you. Bye bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Great to have you.
Bye.